Good morning, everybody. It's Mark Winter here from Technology Distribution, and thank you for your patience while we got the webinar ready to set up and ready to go. As I said, my name is Mark Winter. I'm the CEO of Technology Distribution, and we're going to run through, in conjunction with Connexient, the webinar today is going to be around digital wayfinding and indoor navigation for healthcare. Wanted to do just a very brief introduction for those of you who may not know who Technology are. We are a distribution organisation. We've been around for 19 years. We have offices across the Asia Pacific region, so Sydney, Melbourne, Gold Coast, Manila and the Philippines. We have 31 staff across those locations, and we work currently with about 6,500 channel contacts from around 2,100 partner organisations. We are very much a partner-focused organisation, and what that means is that we engage directly with, if you're an end client, if you're an end user, we engage directly with a channel partner or a channel partner of your preference, and we will work with them in assisting them in developing detailed scope of work, success criteria for projects, detailed documentation and analysis. We also provide end user and reseller training certifications to your preferred local resources. And we also provide support, and we do back-to-back support with your channel partners or with your preferred channel partner for ongoing maintenance and management of the systems that you may purchase through us, through them, if that makes sense. So we are very much what we would class as a true value-added distributor in providing you with, or providing you and your partners with the right technology and the right support to manage it moving forward. Obviously, because we are talking around healthcare today, I wanted just to give you an idea in relation to some of the other vendors that we work with in and around the healthcare space. I'm not going to go through these in any detail at all. You'll see them on the screen there. We will actually send you a copy of this presentation and the recorded session. So, and if you wanted to have any more or get any more information around the vendors that we work with in this space or in the healthcare space, please feel free to reach out to our team, who will also do introductions to you, via the webinar recording as well. So without further ado, what I wanted to do is really just kick off today. As I mentioned, we're going to be talking about digital wayfinding solutions for hospitals. I do have Mark Green on the call and also Scott. So I will pass over to Mark. Mark, if you want to take control or share your screen, we'll pass over to you for the detailed presentation. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Mark, and welcome everybody. This is Mark Green. I'm co-founder and CEO of Connexient. We are a company that's headquartered in New York City in the US, providing a full suite of digital wayfinding solutions for hospitals and healthcare organizations. I have with me today Scott Campbell, who's our Director of Professional Services, who runs our implementation group working with our clients on the deployment of this technology.
Good morning.
Great. So the first point I would like to make about Connexient is that we are very much focused 100% on the wayfinding challenges of hospitals and their patients and visitors. So this is an indoor mapping and location services technology, essentially blue dot wayfinding. And so we are, again, very focused on the hospital vertical market. When we started developing this product over 4 or 5 years ago, we've been doing wayfinding signage for hospitals through a sister company in the US for over 20 years. So we've worked with hundreds of hospitals and helping them design their physical or static wayfinding systems. And we saw a huge opportunity 6 or 7 years ago to look at a digital platform for wayfinding to complement the signage systems that hospitals have in place. So when we started thinking about the architecture of our solution, which is called MedinAV, we realized that this really had to be more than just a mobile solution, more than just an app. Clearly, we have a mobile app for iOS and Android that provides true indoor GPS turn-by-turn navigation. But based on the different demographics that hospitals have with their patients and their visitors and different age groups, we realized that we really needed to make these indoor maps and directions and routes, et cetera, available on multiple channels within a hospital environment. So in addition to mobile, we have a complete HTML5 web version of MedinAv in the maps. And we also can deploy this on kiosks and digital signage inside hospitals as well. So it's truly multi-channel, multi-modal. And so it really provides your end users as a hospital access to the information anytime, anywhere, whether it's on your website, whether it's via a mobile device, whether it's on a touchscreen kiosk. So we believe this sort of all screens approach is very important in a hospital environment. From a mobile perspective, we have two ways to deliver the solution. We have a white label version of MedinAv, which would be a separate downloadable app, mobile app on iOS and Android that would be completely branded for the hospital. We also have a native SDK, or software development kit platform, where if you're a hospital and you're looking into this Blue Dot wayfinding technology, but you want it to be seamlessly integrated within your own app at the hospital or some other app, we can facilitate that via this native SDK approach. With our white label, this is just providing some of the sort of high-level features of what we call our Navigator version. Think of this as Google or Waze for your patients and visitors. So we're leveraging indoor positioning technology through BLE, Bluetooth Energy Beacon technology, which we'll talk about here in a second, but the ability to position a user as soon as they walk into your building or drive into your parking garage with a blue dot to show them where they are, to allow them to search a directory for a destination, and to get true turn-by-turn navigation through the hallways of your hospital. So that's our Navigator version. That can also be, as I said, integrated. So this is one example of a large customer in New York, one of the top 10 hospitals in the US, New York Presbyterian, who has integrated the Connexient SDK directly into the NYP app. So New York Presbyterian approached this from the standpoint of wanting a single app for their patients and visitors, where they're doing a lot of other things besides wayfinding, like telehealth, bill payment, Epic MyChart integration. And so with the SDK integration, they've essentially embedded Connexient's maps and location services directly within their application. So two different approaches for the client. Another high-level decision we made from an architecture perspective was to understand that a navigation experience for a patient or a visitor or even a staff member of a hospital is often more than just navigating from point A to point B within one hospital building. We clearly do a great job with that, with the blue dot, but we can also incorporate with our customers all of their other secondary buildings, whether they be medical office buildings, clinics, other hospitals in the network. So we do that via very tight integration with Google Maps directly within our application. So this really becomes a true end-to-end or sort of home-to-appointment user experience for a patient or visitor. We can seamlessly take them from the outdoor navigation in something like a Google or a Waze or Apple Maps, automatically switch them to an indoor map, the Connexient indoor map, when they arrive inside your hospital, navigate them, and maybe take them back out to some other location offsite. So going from outdoors to indoors, back to outdoors, a true end-to-end wayfinding experience. In terms of the architecture and the way that we do our indoor positioning in navigation, we use BLE beacon technology. We're actually quite agnostic in terms of the platform that a hospital might want to use. We have our own battery-operated beacons that we can install in the hospital. These are beacons, very low-cost beacons, completely wireless, with a 5 to 6 year battery life that we can install, typically every 30 to 40 feet along a hallway of a hospital. That provides a very accurate 1 to 3 meter positioning with updates every second, so it's a very smooth blue dot experience. We also recognize that many of the major players, whether they be networking companies or RTLS companies, have adopted Bluetooth and BLE into their own infrastructure. So we can play very well with those types of infrastructures, whether it be Aruba, AristaFlow, Polestar, Mist. We can make our application, our wayfinding application, work very nicely with those infrastructures. At the top of the slide, it's showing some of the different applications or use cases that we see in a hospital. Now, of course, we're doing wayfinding, and that was our first use case. But we're actually having conversations, starting to work with some of our hospital clients on some integrations to other applications in the environment, whether that be asset tracking applications, safety and security, facility management, logistics, etc. Now, Connexient is not going to create those solutions necessarily, but where we want to stay focused is on that middle layer of being a true enterprise level indoor mapping and navigation services layer that can position users on the device, route people, share location, and then make these other applications and use cases more efficient in a healthcare environment. And this really speaks to the same thing. So it's really, you know, from our perspective, we have evolved as a company starting as a wayfinding solution only to really more of an Internet of Things mapping and navigation services platform. And through these integrations, we can add value to all these different areas of the enterprise. We've got a very large customer base, primarily in the US and Canada. We now have 58 hospitals under contract using our wayfinding solution. And as you can see here with some of these customer logos, we've got some pretty major health systems here in the US and starting to expand, and clearly through our partnership within technology, looking forward to bringing this technology to your region. Some of these deployments are quite large. I'll give you one example, Baycare Health System, which is based in Florida. We just deployed MedinAv at 13 of their hospitals in about a 10-month period. And we're doing those types of enterprise rollouts at a number of these major health systems. A couple examples or case studies, University of Alabama, Birmingham Medicine in Birmingham, Alabama, large academic medical center. We've mapped out over 6 million square feet at that hospital, including 7 buildings and 3 parking garages, which represents over 10 miles of navigation pathways where we've got beacons providing true turn-by-turn navigation, over 135 points of interest on the maps. UAB launched the app, which they've labeled or branded Wayfinder in February of this year, and they've had a really tremendous adoption from their patients and visitors, over 12,000 downloads of the Wayfinder app, over 90,000 unique user sessions, which average about 9,000 sessions per month. They've done a very nice job of marketing the solution. They've got it deployed on all 3 platforms, mobile, web, and kiosk. One of our older customers and larger customers is the National Institute of Health Clinic in Bethesda, Maryland, NIH. It's a 5 million square foot facility. They called the app Take Me There. And again, they've had tremendous adoption and usage of the technology, not only with their patients and visitors, but they've got their entire employee base using Take Me There. So they got over 40,000 employees, contractors, et cetera, that use the app to navigate themselves throughout this facility, but also to do some other interesting use cases. For example, NIH implemented an issues reporter inside our application. So any employee that sees some kind of a maintenance issue, whether it's a spill or graffiti or something that needs to be fixed, can report that issue directly within our application. We will geolocate on the indoor map where that issue is. That would then get routed to a maintenance supervisor, and then they can use the app to go navigate to go fix that particular issue. We've also done a real-time Uber-like interface to their shuttle system. They have a 300-acre campus. They've got many different shuttle routes. Those shuttles have GPS sensors inside them, and in our app, any employee of NIH can look at where these vehicles are in real time and when they're arriving at different locations. So some interesting integrations that we've done with NIH. So that's an overview. What I'd like to do now is just any questions?
Yeah, Mark, I just want to, there's a couple of questions I wanted to just run through, if you don't mind. One was asked on the list when we went through and we looked at the vendors that are supported. There was a question regarding Cisco was not on the list in relation to the location pieces and also in relation to the BLE. So can you maybe just talk through, what BLE is supported under the Connexient brand and what BLE, that you work with?
Sure, I'm glad to do that. So we are actually working with Cisco. Cisco has added, as many of you know, started with Halo and hyperlocation. So Cisco has Bluetooth radios inside their, they started with the 3700, 3800 access points, and now the new 4800. They're continuing to enhance that technology. We can, from our perspective, again, what we do is we use something called handset sensor fusion technology. So it's technology on the actual mobile device that's reading the BLE signals in the environment, as well as some of the sensors on the phone, like the compass, accelerometer. And that sort of fuses all that data together and is able to then position somebody on the map. So when we look at a Cisco, let's say a new 4800 access point that's transmitting an advertising a signal, we can use that just like any other beacon in the environment. Now, the key thing is really around density and placement to really provide a true turn-by-turn navigation experience without any kind of latency or lag time. With our sensor fusion, we're getting refreshes every second or multiple times per second. So there's no sort of lag with the blue dot. Our challenges going back several years with just a pure Wi-Fi sort of MSE, CMX environment with Cisco is that sort of latency of whether it be 10 seconds, 20 seconds. Obviously, Cisco's certainly been working on that. As long as we can get those refreshes within a second or multiple, maybe a couple seconds, we can facilitate that navigation experience. But we would have to consult with the client around placement of those access points, density. Typically, we're looking at one beacon for every 2,000 square feet in terms of a placement, and typically every 30 or 40 feet along a hallway of a hospital. So again, we really want to be agnostic. To us, a Bluetooth signal is really all we need. Any questions on that?
That's great. Thanks, Mark.
Mark, did you have any other questions that had come up, or?
Yeah, there was. Sorry. One of the other questions was with large sites, for example, if you're looking at a 5 million square meter map as an example, how do they cope with the challenge of having to change the battery life of the beacons every 5 years? It seems like an enormous cost to do that. What's the process that you see in place for those organisations around obviously putting in beacons that are battery powered?
Okay, great. Scott, are you on the line? I'm going to let you take a couple of these questions as well. Are you with us?
Sure, I'm here. So great question. So in 5 million square meters, I'm doing a quick conversion here in my head because here in the US, we do everything by square feet. But
sorry, Scott, it was square feet. It was square feet. Oh, no,
okay.
Sorry, it was square meters. My apologies. No, it was square meters. Either way,
Okay.
I think the point here is that a very large site. How is it that you're seeing in the US? Are they dealing with the maintenance side of the beacon piece?
Okay, so to give you an example of total cost, so total, like our largest site is Northwestern in Chicago is about 6 million square feet. In that particular site, it's just a little bit over 2,000 beacons. So it's not as big a lift as you would think in terms of the time to go and replace the batteries, as well as the frequency in which you're doing it, because you're placing the beacons only in the public navigational areas. You're not putting them, in secure patient rooms or behind barriers where you need to get special permission or being escorted in today's market. Now, if we get into more staff use cases, Yes, I could see that being something that we would have to address in terms of making sure that people have access beyond those barriers. But in today's world where we're just doing wayfinding for public facing use cases, um, it's not really that big of a challenge. It's typically a battery replacement the size of a 2,000 beacon deployment would be done in a matter of 2 days. And that would be 2 of our field service engineers replacing those. Mark, I think it would be good for you to talk about how we do beacon maintenance as a service, because that is something that we do both with as Connexient as well as through our partners within technology, to where we do it that we would do that battery maintenance for the customer.
Yeah, sure. We have two maintenance. Sorry, Mark. We have 2 maintenance programs: an indoor mapping maintenance program and a beacon maintenance program. The mapping maintenance program is essentially us agreeing with our customer that we will update and keep their maps updated for them through a workflow process. So we have a team of mapping specialists. We're very much focused on the fact that the maps and the data always have to be updated and current to make this an effective solution. And I think that comes from our heritage as a wayfinding signage company. It's not an application where we just hand it over to the customer and say, hey, it's up to you to maintain your own data and maps. We've seen that. We've seen those products become orphaned pretty quickly. So we get very involved with our clients, and our partners will get involved with maintaining the maps. So that's there's an annual fee for that based on square footage. And then also the beacon maintenance is where we can monitor via a cloud dashboard the health of those beacons that we install. If any beacons got moved around, we get an alert. And as part of our annual beacon maintenance fee, we take responsibility for the battery replacement. So we try to make this very much of a turnkey approach where it's not a huge lift for the IT organization. The beacons are very simple to deploy, and we take on a lot of that maintenance ourselves.
And certainly for us here in Australia or in Asia Pacific, that's something that we will be working with the reseller partners in being able to provide that as a service to you as a client, as an example. So that's one of the things that we're obviously providing as a service. Or obviously Connexient is US based, but as their representation down here, and working with the local channel partners, that will be a service that your local channel partner will have the ability to provide for you, whether that be back to back with existing contracts that you may already have with them, or alternatively it may be a new contract that you would put in place. And it's not a great expense. So and keeping in mind that it is the batteries, in particular in relation to the Polestar beacons, the batteries don't need to be changed, apart from every 5 years. So, another thing to look at. Another question was can the Polestar beacons be used for any other BLE application other than just using it for digital wayfinding?
I mean, yes, sir. Yes, but Scott, do you want to?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Polestar beacons are compliant with the iBeacon standard. So there's nothing that we're doing to augment that signal in any way. So as long as you're using another application that would use the iBeacon standard, you'd be fine.
Okay, perfect. That's all the questions we have at the moment. So if we wanted to go into the demo, that would be great.
Excellent.
Oh, the other thing also that I did want to say, for anybody who's on the call who would like to actually get their hands on what one of these applications look like yourself personally, and I have done this, and I have about 8 of the applications running on my device at the moment, although obviously because they're US based, I can't actively use them. But what you can do is you can download the app. The app is the full app. And if you really want to have a click around and a look around, on the app itself, on the apps themselves, if you go to your local app store, whether it be Apple or Google Play, and you do a search for Connexient, the apps will come up. You can install them. You can have a play with them. Like I said, I mean, obviously the navigation, you're not going to be able to do the navigation as you would do internally, or it's not going to be able to give you that specific location because you're not on site. But you can do, as an example, you can do a sample turn-by-turn navigation. You can see what it looks like. and it's a great way for you to actually see it, you know, look at it firsthand as well. So, but I'll just pass back to Mark and let you continue, mate.
Sure, sure. So I want to give you a couple live examples. So I'm going to start with our web version. So I want to show you some of our 3D mapping, look and feel, and how this could be used as more of a pre-planning solution. So imagine I'm a patient or a family member. Maybe it's a Sunday night. I know I've got an appointment at the hospital, a little nervous about it, or mom and dad a little nervous about it. I could go to the hospital's website and I could essentially explore the whole journey that I'm about to take. So this is, again, University of Alabama, Birmingham Medicine. You can see they've done a really nice job of integrating our HTML5 version right into their website. So they now have a button, they've added the button, in addition to requesting an appointment, they've got a new button called Click to Find Your Way, which I will do. They've come up with a name for the product called Wayfinder. So every one of our customers with a white label will come up with a different name, whether it's Find My Way, Wayfinder, Navigator. So very much, you will not see Connexient. We're not really about branding ourselves here. It's all white label for our customers. So they have at UAB, they've done a nice little marketing video where they sort of do a day in the life showing the Blue Dot experience. So I could play that video. I could certainly download the app because ultimately we really want to get people downloading the app even before coming to the hospital so they get that Blue Dot experience. They've got a whole FAQ section around Wayfinder with some common questions. But if I wanted to view this on my desktop, again, this is more of a pre-planning scenario. The default view is a very familiar Google Maps view. You can see here, these green blocks are the different buildings that we've mapped on that campus. From an Explorer perspective, we're a Google enterprise partner. We can come in on an implementation and add some additional, called metadata or points of interest on the Google map for that particular campus. Often Google does a great job of knowing the outdoor world, but they don't really know the individual organization that well in terms of different entrances, different points of interest. So what the UAB has done is said, you know what, it'd be nice to show on this version, you know, where are all the different hotels near the hospital. So I could choose that, you know, places to eat, you know, where are all our clinics, different clinics. So we work with them to add these, what we call points of interest, but these are outdoor points of interest. I'll also show you indoor POIs, but these are different urgent emergency departments, etc. Now, if I wanted to drill down into see a campus view, what I can do here is, and they've got a little tutorial here talking about some of the different features of the solution. But if I say, let's go, what it's now bringing up is what we call a textured 3D model. This look and feel is something we develop simply by taking your AutoCAD files. It's the same rendering that you're going to get not only on this web version, but on your mobile device and on a kiosk or digital sign as well. So it's very consistent across those different platforms, okay? As you can see here, UAB is quite a massive deployment for us. It's about 10 city blocks. If you were actually there with the Blue Dot, you could start in this building and literally navigate across different skyways, across all these buildings, all the way out to this particular parking garage here. And we're handling different floor elevations where you might be on one floor here, floor 5. When you go across, that turns into floor 4. So we really do a lot of that implementation work for you to make it a good experience. But I could actually not only look at the 3D map, but I could tap on a building. And now I could sort of explore the floor plan of a particular building here. So let's say I want to look maybe at a different floor. I can then change the angle of that. And again, more from a pre-planning perspective, starts to give me a sense, okay, this is maybe where I'd like to go. I'd like to go to admitting, so I'd like to get a route. Now, in addition to sort of touring the models, I can also search a very comprehensive directory. And really, this is all user defined. We work with the client on whether you want to call things clinics or departments. Now, one of the options you have as a hospital is whether or not to provide, include your physician database within the Connexient application. Some of our customers do that, some don't. But UAB has taken all their doctors and incorporated them in here so patients can actually get routes to physicians, both on campus, inside the hospital here, as well as off-site locations, okay? So I could search my doctor here, just search this down, and then it'll actually then pinpoint for me, where this doctor is. You could have whatever information you want on her profile, and I could literally see where she is here in this building. Okay, so this can be done at the physician level, or maybe I'm just trying to find let's say this admitting department. And again, it's going to sort of zero in on where that is. Now, what if I were to want to get a route? And again, let's say I'm still at home. I could come to this go-to area. I could simply type in my home address. So I'm going to just type in an address in Birmingham here, so we can filter that list. Now, what Medinav is doing here is it's recognizing that this person is outside the hospital. They're trying to get to this specific department inside this very large campus. And so the first question that's being asked is, what type of transportation would the user like? Would they like to get driving directions, public transportation? So this could be subways, bus routes, et cetera, or walking. The NIH has a 300-acre campus, so they early on said we really need walking between buildings, so we added that feature in all of our platforms. Now again, because we know this user is coming from outside, it's making a parking recommendation. So we have a feature called Parking Planner. And again, this is available on the web version as well as the mobile. A big pain point with a lot of hospitals is that you come to the hospital, there may be multiple choices around parking, whether they be parking decks, open lots. What we can do is make that a more convenient experience by literally recommending the closest parking garage based on where the point of care is inside the hospital. So in this case, we said, hey, 4th Avenue parking deck would be the closest. We can certainly show you other options. Maybe I'd rather go to valet. But in this case, I'll take that recommendation. So what we do now is we show a route, both our outdoor street route. So you can see here, I could step through sort of what my step-by-step driving directions would be, and then simulate what would my route look like once I arrive at the hospital. So if I'm coming to this 4th Avenue parking garage, it's going to show me sort of visually, what's my route going to look like until I get to my final destination. Now, of course, I'm probably not going to remember that if I'm pre-planning this. I could print that out on a printer, so I could have that with me, or maybe give it to mom or dad and they can write notes on it. It would give them both driving directions and turn-by-turn indoor directions. Or I could more dynamically send to a phone either text only for the turn-by-turn directions or text with the map, either via to an email address or to a text message. I'll put in my phone number. So what we're going to do here is we're going to bundle that up as a PDF and send it right to a user's phone. Okay, so even if I haven't downloaded the Blue Dot app yet, I still have, at the very least, static turn-by-turn directions, both driving and inside the hospital to get to my point of care. And that might be where I start. Now, of course, what we really want to do is use this web version or the kiosk version to promote the fact that there is a mobile app. And so here we have a banner that says, hey, we've got this mobile app. It's got these features: Parking Planner, turn-by-turn, My Car Saver. So the other thing we can do is, with a mobile app, we can remember where somebody parked inside a garage, navigate them with the blue dot from the garage into the hospital, and then back out to where they parked. So these are some of the features. And from this screen, we could drive them to the app stores to download the app. We already know where they're going, and then we could then take them to a route once they get to the hospital. So that's the web version, just to give you a sense of that. What I'd like to do now is bring up our mobile version. This is showing a demo site called Francisco's Hospital. It's actually a fictitious hospital. This is our new version 3 release that just came out here in the last 2 months. We had some new enhancements, one of which is what we call an enterprise architecture. So if you take one of our customers like Baycare, who's rolled this out at 13 hospitals, they didn't want to have a separate wayfinding app for each hospital. So with this new version, you can have multiple campuses represented on this front screen. And so if you downloaded Baycare Compass, on the App Store, you would see literally 13 hospitals here. Now, if I were actually at one of these campuses, say Francisco's North, we would recognize that either via GPS or with the beacons, and we'd automatically pull up the directory and the maps for that hospital. But in this case, I'm actually going to make a selection of which campus I want to go to. So I'm going to select Francisco's North. We'll then pull in the user interface for that particular campus. We have what we call tiles or icons. These are very much user-defined in terms of the nomenclature that each of our clients want to use, but it's essentially the ways that anybody could select a destination and get a route with a blue dot. So I could do that by department. I could do it by a room, so you can get pretty granular with your navigation down to room-level navigation. For example, NIH Clinic has 6,000 rooms that can be searched inside our application and navigated to. And as we get into some additional use cases around safety and security and staff usage, that level of granularity will be very important. Points of interest are really the amenities, both inside the hospital and outside the hospital. So you can think of this as well as sort of a hospitality solution where you could go to the local businesses around the hospital and have them be part of this solution, where we could get people out of the hospital to go to their local, local hotel or shopping or what have you. Just to give you an example of what a blue dot experience would look like, I'm going to tap on this department tile. We have a content management system where we'll be loading in all of your departments or clinics or any kinds of points of interest here. I could select off a list. I could search. I'm going to start typing in the word OR admitting, just to show you what we call an alias feature. So in this particular hospital, there is no department called OR admitting. But what you can do is set up aliases. So if somebody types this in, you can correlate that to another department, which in this case is surgery check-in center, surgery center check-in. I know other customers, if somebody types in leukemia, it would suggest the oncology clinic. So you can have synonyms or aliases from a searching perspective. Now, if I choose surgery center check-in, it's going to sort of give me a split screen here. On the top is the indoor map with a pin location showing where that surgery center check-in is on the indoor map. Completely interactive, so I'm using my fingers here to sort of pinch and zoom in and zoom out on the map. So you can sort of get a sense of the whole floor there and where this particular destination is. I can also get any kind of visual landmarks or pictures of, let's say, the different departments, or it might be the cafe. You can have pictures as part of this as well. And again, this is making the same kind of parking recommendation that you saw with our web version. So it's saying in order to get to the surgery center check-in, we would recommend south parking level 1. Now, of course, I could also look at other options on the campus. So again, it would pull in a 3D map and show me all the different parking locations, and maybe I want to choose one of them instead. But if I take that recommendation, when I hit directions, what we'll now do is start to integrate with Google Maps and other navigation tools. So it's going to give me a preview and show me from my point of origin to my point of destination what my route would look like from a Google perspective. If I wanted to then start a route, I'll tap on start. What Connexient does is it identifies what mapping app is already loaded on the user's phone and provides a choice. Some people are Waze users, some people are Google users. And what we'll do here is we'll deep link directly into that navigation app, but it's contextual to that destination. So we know we're trying to get them to this particular parking garage. So the user doesn't have to exit out of the Wayfinding app, go to their Apple or Waze, re-enter their destination. It's going to take them right to that recommended location on the campus. But we would deep link in so you could get at the native features of voice guidance, traffic updates, etc. Now, when I get to the hospital, in this case, we're simulating, what would it look like if we got that user into that recommended parking garage? It's now prompting them. As soon as they cross a geofence and we know they're in the garage, we could welcome them to the hospital, and we could ask them if they'd like to save their parking location automatically. Of course, they could take a photo with their phone, so that would be a visual landmark as they're returning to their car, a picture of the phone. But in this case, I'm going to save my parking location. It's going to prompt me and confirm that this is the level I'm on. And now we're simulating what would it look like if I'm in the garage, I'm getting out of my car. I can now follow the blue dot literally from a parking spot into the hospital. Now, as I take this next turn, you're going to see what we call visual landmarks that are integrated into the route. So this is, for example, a picture of the walkway that goes from the garage to into the hospital. With our beacon technology, we're handling floor-level transitions very smoothly. There's no delay on the blue dot coming out of an elevator, for example. And it's very simple, intuitive interface. Just follow the blue dot till we get to a final destination. Now, I've gotten to this department. We have a user survey capability where we can get feedback from people in terms of how effective this was from a navigation perspective. We can integrate this with any other survey tools like SurveyMonkey. We have our own survey forms that can be customized, but this provides the user to provide feedback in terms of, hey, this is a great experience, or hey, you took me to the wrong department, which tells us and our clients we need to look at that data. So that's a very simple route. Now, let's say my wife has gone in for some pre-op work, and I'd like to get something to eat in the hospital. So I'm going to go over to this points of interest area. As you can see here, these are all user-defined. These are just some examples of what some of our customers have done, all the way down to things like charging stations, conference rooms, kiosks. We have some customers that actually have artwork in here as points of interest, and the NIH, for example, created a whole artwork navigation solution. So if people want to go navigate between pieces of art, they can use our app to do that. Now, the other thing we're showing is a nearest me feature. So if I were to look for dining, because we know where this user is on the device, we can show these amenities based on distance. So what this is telling me is that there's a coffee area 57 feet away from me, but if I'm hungry and I'd like to go to the cafeteria, I might choose this other destination. So again, it's going to show me on the map where that cafeteria is. I can put any kind of content in here, menus, what have you. Now, if I want to get a route, it's going to show here how dynamically the blue dot, as I'm navigating, the maps are dynamically shifting in their orientation. So it's not just a flat map. It's going to always give you that sort of south to north orientation as you're navigating towards your destination. This is going to show intentionally what we call an off-route feature. So what if a user either, maybe unintentionally strayed off their route? We could prompt them, just like when we're driving in the outdoor world, and ask if we'd like to recalculate the route, or if they'd like to recalculate the route. Now, when we do this recalculation, we're going to get them to the closest transition. So maybe they've gone too far beyond that original elevator to the point where there's another elevator closer to them. We'll then recalculate and get them to the next destination. You can see up on top, we have a distance countdown ticker, which will show very intuitively how close they're getting to the next logical turn. Up on top, you'll see text in terms of telling them when to go up and down elevators. We can be descriptive with the elevators. So in this case, we're getting them down an elevator to a final destination. There can be voice prompts to these routes that can be set up on a system-wide basis or at an individual user basis. So maybe for the visually impaired, there's voice output for all these text instructions that they're getting on the routes. Okay. So let's say it's the end of the day, have had a couple appointments, it's been a stressful day here at the hospital, need to get back to my car, I've completely forgotten where I parked. I can come back into this parking area. It's going to remind me under my saved location where I parked. It's going to ask me if I'd like to be taken back to my car, which I would say yes here. It's going to then go locate me where I currently am in the hospital. Perhaps I've been moving around. And again, give that same level of sort of turn-by-turn navigation with visual landmarks, literally taking me back out to the parking garage. So when I get down to this next floor, you're going to see a proximity-based message. So what we can do is, knowing where that user is by entering into certain zones or geofences, we can target content in the app to them based on location. So in this case, there's a message that says, hey, remember to pick up your prescription in the pharmacy. This could be, hey, there's a special in the gift shop. Please come in for a discount. Or there's a blood drive going on in the cafeteria. Would you like to come in? So in addition to wayfinding, we are also able to do some level of targeted marketing, if you will, and messaging to your users based on their location inside the hospital. And again, this is now navigating literally back out to where I parked, showing me a picture I took of my car, right back out to where I parked. So what I've shown here, and there's a lot of other things I certainly could show, what I've shown here is a complete end-to-end experience, literally taking somebody from their home to the hospital, getting them into the closest parking location, giving them blue dot navigation from the moment they get out of the vehicle, navigating them to their destination, allowing them to navigate the hospital to all the different amenities and points of interest, and right back out to where they park. We have a full analytics dashboard that's going to be able to show you reporting on where people are going and how they're using the facility as well. The last feature I'll show you is this new Meet Me feature. This is a brand new feature that we just came out with this month. This is allowing users to share their location dynamically with other users. So let's say I wanted to share my location, my current location, or maybe I search the directory and say, you know what, I'd like somebody else to meet me at the coffee shop, okay? I could put in my name, and what we can do is then send this as a deep link via a text message to somebody that's trusted, a trusted contact on my phone. So that would go, let's say that goes to Tara. Tara receives that message and says, great, I'm on my way. Tara, as a recipient, will see where John is because he has shared his location with Tara. And if Tara wants to get navigation, we would then position Tara where she currently is with the blue dot and navigate her to go meet up with John. So this location sharing, we believe, has tremendous potential, not only from a friends and family perspective, making it easier for patients to share their location with loved ones as they're coming to visit them, but also with staff using this to more efficiently meet up at conference rooms, et cetera. So this is a new feature called Meet Me that we believe has a tremendous amount of applications within a hospital environment. I realize we're coming up to the end of our session here. Just wanted to sort of take a break here and see if there's any more questions.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. That looks great. So a couple of questions. Existing reference sites here in Australia. So I'll answer that one. So this is the first webinar that we're really doing for Connexient here in Australia, and we, although we don't have any reference sites as yet, we are currently working on a number of sites in relation to putting POCs together for clients. So this is a new, we're bringing Connexient to the Australian or the Asia Pacific market. A little bit of history on the relationship between InTechnology and Connexient. One of the things that a lot of you on the call will know that we do as an organization from an InTechnology perspective is that we spend a lot of time in researching and understanding what is the latest or the greatest and the next technology that's going to be beneficial to organizations within country or within region. We've been talking and working with the team at Connexient, I would say, for probably about the last 2 years, maybe a little bit longer. And the reason that we haven't brought the product to market yet is because, to be honest, the market hasn't been ready. There hasn't been a facility that we've spoken to, and as you saw, we do a lot of work in the healthcare space. There hasn't been a facility in the market space today that has had the requirement for digital wayfinding that we've seen out of the US and out of Europe. Now, that said, what we have seen is a massive interest in digital wayfinding in the last sort of 6 months, and hence the reason that we are now really pushing and bringing to market what we see as being the leaders in this field. Now, we as InTechnology, we looked at vendors from right across the world. Not just from the US. I was in Barcelona at Mobile World Congress You know, and I looked at probably about 6 or 7 different vendors when I was over there. You know, I've spoken to and seen other healthcare organizations that have implemented digital wayfinding technology that wasn't necessarily specific for healthcare. So yes, there are other vendors that do digital wayfinding technology, but they're like, you know, they'll do hospitality, they'll do healthcare, they'll do airports, they'll do everything. Connexient were the vendor that we looked at and we evaluated amongst a number of vendors, and we made the decision to choose Connexient because of their standing in the marketplace, their history in the healthcare space, and also the quality of their product. And as you've seen during the presentation, you know, there's not really a great deal that you can add to this product at the moment to make it any better than where it is today. You know, I think I'm sure everybody on the call would agree that the application usage for this sort of technology and what Connexient can do is fantastic. We have had you know, long-term conversations with a number of state-based, so state government organisations, you know, dating back maybe 18 months, 2 years ago, that I recall having a conversation with one of the health departments that wanted a solution exactly like Connexient, however, they weren't ready for it. So I guess in short, to answer your question, you know, do we have reference sites here in Australia? We don't today. We are running through our first POCs right now. And then obviously as they progress into full deployments, we'll obviously then be able to you know, use them as reference sites here in Australia. Question that I think, in actual fact, we spoke about this just recently between Connexient and myself around integration with patient queuing systems. Yes, there are integrations into patient queuing systems, and you know, there certainly is the ability for us to, you know, look at adding additional features and functionality that will allow for things like patient queuing, for things like RTLS. There's an array of additional features and functionality that can be added over and above just the standard product. There was another question in relation to Connexient opening potentially a centre of excellence in Australia. To be able, you know, so we can showcase the technology. We will see that coming or happening out of the first POC that we're doing. So part of that will allow part of the facility and us putting this POC together for the facility. They will allow us to then use that as a centre of excellence or a showcase, so that other organisations and other healthcare providers can actually use that as a reference case and use that to go out and see the facility. Obviously, you know, one of the things, you know, that I can tell you right now, we're talking to most of the state-based health departments around providing this as a technology, and you know, across their organisation. So not just one facility, but rolling this out to a number of facilities across the states. And I'm talking, you know, in excess of 20 or 30 facilities in some cases, if not more. And we're also talking to a lot of private healthcare institutions around, you know, that do have multiple facilities, like Mark was mentioning before, where they've got, you know, one group of hospitals that has 17 deployments of the Connexient product. So, and you choose which facility you're going to go to, or alternatively, the system will know your location based on your GPS and will guide you to the closest facility. So yes, in short, we are definitely talking to those facilities about that, and we see that being, you know, happening moving forward. What else have we got here? At a price point, where does Connexient see itself in the market? And are they positioned at the low, mid-market price or a premium product? Do you want, I mean, in actual fact, this is a great question. We spoke about this the other day. Mark and Scott, do you guys want to take that one?
Yeah, I would say more on the premium side, mid to premium, and keeping in mind that we a little bit of an echo there. But yeah, so I think one of the things to always keep in mind is the breadth of the product. So we have the different platforms, mobile, web, kiosk, analytics. So when looking at pricing, you sometimes got to make sure you're doing sort of an apples to apples comparison, because most of the other products are mobile only. So they don't offer that whole sort of 3D mapping web interface that I just demoed to you. So I think because of that, because you have these multiple modules, we tend to be maybe more on the premium side. And I think, again, our focus is really on healthcare and continuing to add more and more functionality that matters to healthcare, and not distract ourselves with these other vertical markets. So it's very much of a best of breed solution. And also the focus on working with you and on the mapping in the data. So we get quite involved in technology, and our partners will get quite involved on the professional services side to make sure that this is a very useful solution and not just a do-it-yourself kind of platform. So, but I would say yes, we're certainly not on the low end of the market from a pricing perspective.
And I think the other thing to keep in mind as well is that as we're developing the market here, we will have dedicated resources in and around the mapping process and the mapping piece. So when we were talking earlier on during the presentation around the beacon or management of beacons and so forth, same scenario when it comes to the management of the mapping in the facilities. So that will be something that will be provided by local resource. We're not looking at resourcing that out of anywhere other than this local region. So it's a service that's being provided to ensure that the facilities are up to date with the latest and greatest maps, based on their hospitals and the modification and changes. And certainly, if you look at where the market is now, we're starting to see a lot of changes happening in facilities, and a lot of organisations, a lot of the facilities are looking at making modifications to buildings rather than building new. So I think that's really important to keep in mind, that that local resource and local requirement is going to be there for for both the short and the long term. So I think that for the moment, it's all the questions that we have. Anybody who has any additional questions, feel free to pop them in the chat window. Alternatively, as I mentioned before, we will be providing a recorded session or recording of this session. If there's additional information that you would like to know, or alternatively, if you would like to, look at talking to us around potentially looking at a POC in relation to your own facility, or what the potential rollout might look like, pricing, costing, timeframes, or that sort of thing, feel free to get in contact with us, and we can, discuss that with your local partner. But apart from that, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank you all for attending, and certainly, we understand that your time is valuable, and Mark and Scott, we really do appreciate your time as well. And for any of those who are in Sydney today, please take care. I believe the roads are pretty messy down there with what's happening with the storm. So, stay safe, and we look forward to working with you soon. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.